I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer 2 years ago. I know you're not a cancer doctor, and I'm very much on a keto diet because I do not want to feed my cancer stem cells glucose. So I am eating nuts and seeds, but I am eating eggs, meat, but a lot of dark green leafy veg. I do the keto sticks. I test my urine. And so far, my CA125s have remained relatively low. But I'm concerned, and I have been following you for a couple of years, that my diet is not good for my heart health. And I love legumes, I love whole grains. But when I eat those and I test my urine, my glucose has gone up, and that scares me. I don't want this cancer to come back.
We all hesitate to give specific patient recommendations. I can only speak generally because I don't treat cancer and you're not a patient in my clinic. I mean, you can monitor. I tell not all my patients in the clinic follow a whole food plant-based diet, unfortunately. And I will, work with them where they're at. And I tell them, if you're going to do a different diet, a paleo, a keto diet, at least monitor what we call the biomarkers, at least know if your cholesterol went up significantly, what's your LDL cholesterol, your triglycerides. There is clearly data that in some people, meat-heavy diets cause insulin resistance, cause a release of insulin, cause a rise in the hemoglobin A1C. There are other people that react differently, but you got to check those parameters and see what's working for you if you're going on such a journey. And, in general, like if one were to travel to West Palm Beach and go to the Hippocrates Health Institute, which has been an alternative site of cancer therapy, or True North in Santa Rosa, California, an alternative site, they would probably recommend for the same diagnosis a raw whole food plant diet, not the diet you're following. So just anybody needs to keep open-minded. Hey, use of food as an actual therapy for cancer, just in my general knowledge, is certainly still an early field. So with the exception of some glioblastoma brain cancers in the ketogenic diet, I think we always need more data. So just keep open-minded about it all. And I think there is a facility in Toronto called Kahn MD, CANMED, where a person can go get one of those calcium score CT scans. It's always best to have as much data as possible.
Thank you for that, Doctor. Next, we have Steve. Steve, what is your question?
Dr. Kahn, do you recommend people that are already eating a whole food plant-based diet and living a healthy lifestyle get all these tests? For example, should Brian Clement get all the tests that you're recommending? And if it turned out that there was a risk factor and you were already doing everything you can do, what would be the next step? Are you recommending certain medicines?
Good morning, Steve. It's a very provocative question. Brian Clement is the PhD naturopathic head of the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, that I just mentioned. Somebody who's been living, from my observation, extremely healthy environment and food life for decades. I don't know. I would ask Brian his family history. I would do blood work. One could argue if his blood work, inflammation, insulin resistance, lipids, cholesterol, vitamin levels were optimal, which I would imagine he'd be pretty close to. Maybe if there was a family history, throw in a couple of genetic markers, the lipoprotein A, the NP21. And if that all further supported the biochemistry of low risk, you could do nothing beyond what we said, assuming he's not snoring and doesn't need a home sleep study by WatchPat1. But, you easily could just toss in. I could tell Brian where to go in Boca and get a carotid study to confirm that around late 60s, which is what I think Brian is, his vascular age was lower or at least equal to that. I just find in my office, I've got healthy people that are runners, thin, eat well, and they have a large burden of cardiovascular disease. And I work with them to dig deep into why. And sometimes the genetic component. I have people that inherited lipoprotein A, ApoE44, NP21 from both parents. And honestly, they are in trouble despite healthy lifestyle. We got to work twice as hard to protect them. So it all would depend, but I wouldn't do everything on Brian. I would do some. And thank you, Brian, for letting us use you as an example without your permission.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Steve, for that. Next, we have Andrew. Andrew, what is your question?
Hey, Dr. Kahn, great to see you. Andrew from Florida. Great presentation today. Two questions regarding longevity. You mentioned thanos therapy. Anything on cryotherapy, both the effectiveness and the safety of it? And also, I believe you added something new to your clinic. It's related to like a non-invasive scan of the arteries. I forget the name of it, but there's a company called HeartFlow. It's not the one that you use, but it's along the same lines. Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody's in the Jacksonville area, go buy a Genesis car from Andrew. He's a good
Thank you very much.
He's a good friend. Andrew, so let me take the last step. HeartFlow is a software done during a very advanced but wonderful test called CT angiography of your heart arteries, something done at hospitals or a few outpatient centers or emergency rooms using a CT scanner, using dye called iodine contrast, watching the arteries of the heart fill with dye and measuring any presence of hard plaque, soft plaque, how narrowed arteries are. If you have an artery that is in the middle range, 50 to 70% narrowed as an example, and it's not clear if that patient might benefit from a stent, HeartFlow is a software that actually measures how much blood can get down that artery. And if it's in the normal range, there's no reason to talk about a stent with that patient. And if it shows reduced blood flow down that artery through that moderate blockage, it will indicate there may be a reason and the insurance company may pay for a stent. If there's 10% blockage, you don't need HeartFlow. And if there's 99% blockage, you don't need HeartFlow. It's for the moderate group. And it's a real good add-on, particularly in the emergency room, people with chest pain. I think what you're also referring to, there's a competitor, frankly, called Clearly Health, CLEERLY health.com in New York City. I'm not an investor, so I don't mind talking about it. I send people for Clearly Health studies all over the United States. It's the same CT study with dye. There is radiation. You have to have healthy kidneys. You can't be iodine dye allergic. You have to have a low heart rate, or we give you a medicine to create a low heart rate. But this now uses artificial intelligence to look up and down every millimeter of the heart arteries, telling me when the report comes back, is there plaque? Is it hard calcified plaque, which might be more stable but abnormal? Is there soft non-calcified plaque, which might be more dangerous? How much of it is, where it is, and how narrow the arteries are measured by computer, not by eyeball. This has been a radical advance in my precision with patients. I had a patient this week. His regular heart calcium CT scoring study was under 10, but we found out 97% of the plaque in his arteries, which was a lot in his heart arteries, was soft, non-calcified plaque I was missing. And it's finally gotten into his head. He needs to make the changes I've been talking to him about for years, but I needed something to prove it to him. So yes, precision medicine is a really important term. Clearlyhealth.com is a radiation-based CT scan that has brought the precision of measuring heart arteries into the modern era. Everything before was just eyeball estimates. But it's not for everybody. It's also moderately expensive. It's over $1,000 often out of pocket.
Thanks, Andrew, for that. Thank you, doctor. Next, we have Yaron. Yaron, what's your question?
Hi, doctor. Thank you for the great presentation. You mentioned in one of the panel the importance also of the omega-3. And I'm a vegan. I have all my blood tests within the range except of the omega-3 score. I have it as a 1%. I know recommended at least 5%. Although I taking on a daily basis ground flaxseed, 4 tablespoons, and lots of walnuts and other. I'm afraid to take DHA from algae because I heard that it's have oxidation even more than fish oil. But probably there is a conversion problem in my case from ALA to DHA. What would you recommend to deal with such a situation? Thank you.
Yes. So, and happy Passover to you, Yaron. I would imagine by your accent, you're from Israel. So peace and blessings to everybody celebrating anything during the year. So there are people that can eat a lot of ground flaxseed, chia seeds, hemp hearts, walnuts, and are not efficient converting them over to EPA, DHA. There's a way to measure that by your 23andMe or your SNPs. It's called the FAD SNP. I'm very efficient. I measured mine. So give me all the ground flaxseed and I'll make good amounts of EPA and DHA, but others don't. Maybe that's why I've survived as a vegan for 45 years, a little genetic advantage, perhaps. I'm unaware about there being concern. There are many brands of algae-based omega-3 that have good concentrations of EPA, DPA, and DHA. We usually talk about them being an advantage. We don't have to worry about environmental contaminants like mercury and PCBs and BPA and some of the other things that are in fish, PFAS. Terrible chemicals, DDT. Whether they oxidize or not, I'm not sure. I actually use a brand in my clinic that combines algae omega-3 with a wonderful antioxidant called astaxanthin, which gives salmon its pink color and flamingos its pink color, ASTAXANTHIN. There's a particular kind of bacteria, I believe it is, that produces lots and lots of vegan astaxanthin. Otherwise, it's usually from animal sources. And I would think it would protect the algae-based omega-3 from oxidation. The other thing that doesn't get mentioned enough, and certainly Brian Clements would chime in and agree, is chlorella. Chlorella is an algae. That's the original ocean source that give fish omega-3 in their flesh. And a big handful, I usually take about 30 tablets a day, little tiny tablets smaller than a pea of organic chlorella. They're rich in nutrients, very high in protein, but it's a very good source of easily absorbable omega-3, the original source, the OG source, original gangster source there. So maybe add in a good source of organic chlorella from algae into your diet.